What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with another Raid Shadow Legends video. And in today's video, we are actually going to be talking about some champions that are often overlooked by pretty much everybody. And originally, I was going to just have this video be one champion like from each rarity that could help out your account. We're actually going to wind up talking about two in the uncommon rarity. But in general, I just wanted to sort of go over a couple of these champions who can help your account if you are early game player, mid game player, someone that just started the game, free to play, etc., etc. You guys know I kind of like to focus on earlier game players, free to play players, to try to help them out with some of the content if they're struggling with champions or getting through certain dungeons. So without further ado, let us head into the index here, and we're going to talk about a couple of these champions. Now, the first one we're going to go into is going to be the common rarity. Now, everyone knows about the good commons, the most obvious being like Sister Militant, who has the AoE A1. That's her only ability, so a lot of people talk about getting her, putting her in a stun set, and using her for wave control. Really, if you're going to go with a common champion, they have to kind of have that niche where they fit in somewhere that makes them really, really effective. And so the one we're going to talk about is actually in the Sacred Order, and it is the attack champion Yeoman. If you see some of my other videos, you may have seen me running him in Minotaur. I actually am taking him to 6 stars on my main account, and I'm going to be doing a video showcase on him as a common champion at some point. But the reason I love this guy is because early game, the Fire Knight dungeon is incredibly difficult unless you pull specific champions. Now this guy, he pops up all the time in Mystery Shards. He's super easy to book. He only has one ability that you have to put those books into, and it only needs 4 in order to max it out. And it's an A1 that hits 3 times, which for early on in the game, that's going to be pretty amazing for you. Each hit has a 10% chance to decrease the turn meter by 20%. Now you can take that up to 25%. I know it's not a huge number, but we're talking very early game here. We're talking the first, couple levels of the Fire Knight, which this will help you get through. I actually have him at level 50. I've used him in Fire Knight 20, and while his damage is not anything to write home about, he does hit the turn meter decrease quite a bit. I actually do have him in a Relentless set so that he can proc this A1 over and over and just keep taking turns. But in general, having this 3-hit A1 with that chance to decrease turn meter, really, really amazing ability for a common champion to have. Like I said, very easy to get him. It's very easy to book him, and common champions are going to be pretty easy to level up. Now, I'm not saying take this guy to rank 6 or even rank 5, but even at 4-star, if you want to take him to 5-star, this guy will help you get through early and mid Fire Knight. Just being able to hit that 3 hits on the shield, just that by itself is going to be really, really big. And then when you compare him with some other champions that are also good at the Fire Knight, he becomes very effective in that dungeon. That's really the only spot you're going to use him in. But as I said, if you're going to be focusing on a common champion, you really have to kind of find that niche for them to fit into. And I think he's really, really solid in that aspect, and he can definitely help out your account if you're struggling early with the Fire Knight. Usually people struggle with Spider and Fire Knight very early on. There's some really good gear in that Fire Knight dungeon that can help you out in the arena and many other areas. So it's pretty cool to be able to just pull a common champion out of a Mystery Shard and be able to easily book him up and level him up to give you some help in that dungeon. And like I said, I'll be working on a separate video showcase on this guy once I get him to level 60 and once I do some more testing with him. But even at 50, I've been using him in the Fire Knight 20 and having no trouble at all getting through that. So that's our common champion, Yeoman. Now we're going to talk about the uncommon champions. There's actually, I was only going to do one, but then I found a different one that I thought of for an honorable mention, so we'll go ahead and talk about 2. But the first one I want to talk about is in the Knight Revenant faction. This is actually one of my favorite factions, just for the simple fact that so many of these champions have really, really cool designs. Now, when you come down to the uncommons, oddly enough, there's only 3 in this faction, and the one that I'm going to talk about here is one of the few HP uncommon champions that is Ad Monitor. Now, this guy just looks cool. I mean, any dude that has bear traps on his shoulders, you really don't want to mess with this guy. But one of the things that you struggle with early in the game is basically support, keeping your team alive. Usually even your best champions are going to not be very sturdy. They're going to take a lot of damage, not going to have a lot of HP or defense. This guy is a great tank for early in the game. Even in faction wars, like middle of the game, you could definitely use this guy. He's an HP champion. You can see his base stats are not anything crazy at level 60, just, you know, almost 19,000 HP. But he's got some really good skills in his kit. And again, as an uncommon champion, you'll be pulling this guy all the time from mystery shards. It's very easy to book them up. It's very easy to level them up. You can see his A1 attacks an enemy, places a shield buff on him for 1 turn. That's equal to 10% of the damage inflicted by his attack. So basically, you want to make sure you build this guy with a lot of HP. And you also want to make sure he's got some attack and probably close to 100% crit rate as you can get him. But every time he does that A1, he's going to get that shield on him. So he could do that every turn. He can put a shield on himself. So that's going to help him be a pretty solid tank for your team. And that's actually going to come in handy with his A2, which is a 50% ally protection buff on a target ally for 2 turns. Now this, once you get him booked, is on a 2-turn cooldown. So pretty much once it wears off, he'll be able to put it back on. This is great for protecting your squishier DPS champions if you're running dungeons with them, if you're trying to do... Actually, it's funny, I was thinking about putting this guy like in an all-uncommon clan boss team. That's one of my special projects I have on the back burner that I haven't quite been able to get to yet, but just because he has this ally protection. Now, it's only 1 target, but early on in the game, you put this on your main DPS character. Like if you're going through a dungeon and your Cold Heart keeps falling over, or your War Maiden keeps dying, but you need them to put that defense down, you can put that ally protection on that character. You might have to manual it, but it's still a very good ability. This guy has a really solid kit, even though he's only got 2 abilities. And again, being an uncommon champion, being able to pull these from mystery shards, it's easy books. And then you've got this A1 here, which is always going to give him that shield. Great little ability here. If you really even wanted to get crazy with this guy, you could put him in the taunting set, so he's got a provoke that he's putting out, and he could be a very easy to build tank for you in the early and the mid game. So that's the first uncommon, and he was going to be the only one I was going to talk about, but then I remembered this other guy that I wanted to bring up too, that a lot of people kind of sleep on, and that is Skinner, who is in the Lizardmen faction. Another one of my favorite factions just because the characters in here look really, really cool. I love dinosaurs. I was a big dinosaur fan as a kid, so I also love Ninja Turtles, so a lot of the guys in this faction kind of remind me of some of the mutants on that show. But Skinner looks cool. He's got the little skulls here. He's got the cool blades that he uses. And he's also got a pretty solid but simple kit. And this is going to be another guy who can actually help you out quite a bit early on in the Fire Knight if you do pull him. He's got an A1 that attacks 3 times. Very simple, but 3 hits on that Fire Knight shield. Very important early on. You're not going to have a lot of chance early on that are going to be hitting that Fire Knight shield much more than once or twice. So getting a 3-hitter, again, this is a guy who's going to come pretty frequently out of mystery shards, as I've seen. I've pulled several thousand mystery shards, and this guy is usually pretty prevalent in those. So really solid A1, very easy to book. It only needs 4. And then you're going to have an attacks 1 enemy, which removes 2 random buffs from the target on the A2, which you can book down to a 3 during cooldown. Buff removal is always useful. You could use that in a pinch in the arena, but really that's going to be more in handy in certain dungeons, and especially in I'm trying to think. I think it's the Magic Keep. This guy's really, really good in the Magic Keep because he can take away the shield that the Magic Guardian has. And actually, early on, you'll get that Arbiter, or not the Arbiter mission, but you do have a challenge where you have to take the shield from the boss in the Magic Keep. This guy is super easy to use on that. You don't even have to really level him up that much for it. He hits that pretty easily. And again, when I'm talking about these champions, I'm not saying you got to take these guys to 60. These are champions, 4-star, 5-star. They're going to help your account early on in the game. And like I said, Fire Knight Dungeon is probably one of the harder dungeons early on, and this guy just having that 3-hit on the A1 is going to be incredibly helpful there. So those are the 2 uncommons that I really think a lot of people overlook that are really, really good early on for you. Alright, so for our 1 rare, this was a pretty hard decision for me because there's so many good rare champions in the game, but I had to narrow it down, and I had to go with one of my favorite rare champions that I still think, even at this point, a lot of people just disrespect. Even though I've done a guide on this guy, it should come as no surprise who we're going to talk about here, and that is going to be the defensive Skinwalker champion, Grappler. This guy, the only real thing on him is it's tough to guarantee you're going to pull him. He can drop from mystery shards. He could drop from ancient shards, but it's kind of hard to pull rares because there's so many good rares in the game, and you never know when you're going to get one. But if you do get Grappler, I've done a guide on this guy, really solid champion, and you could use him in a variety of places. And again, he kind of falls into that support the team role where he's going to help keep your team alive. He's going to do a lot of cool things. He's also got some poison utility. He has a weaken on his A1, which attacks 2 times at random. He has a 2x attack on the A2, which also puts out a poison. And then he's got the A3, which puts a shield on all allies and also does a reflect damage buff. Again, this guy's another really solid champion you can use in the Fire Knight. This guy's really good in early clan boss. He's good in dungeons, because especially Dragon, he can put out that poison. He's got the reflect damage for the waves to help out with that. So just in general, a really, really solid kit. On a rare champion, yeah, some of the numbers, they could be a little bit better, and my biggest complaint with him is that all of his attacks the damage is based on attack instead of defense, with him being a defensive champion. But if you guys have seen my guide, you know I use this guy in Fire Knight 20. I have taken him up to level 60. Again, I'm not saying that you have to do that. This is just kind of my opinion in general on these things. Obviously, you want to do what's best for your account when you're investing resources in champions. But as rare champions go, I think this guy is often overlooked and just a really, really solid champion that you can use in a lot of areas. Good in faction wars as well. I use him also in my Skinwalker faction wars, which I think I'm on 17 or 18 at this point, and he's been pretty good in there, especially with that reflect damage, helping them survive a little bit longer. So that's Grappler. I'll actually link my guide that I made on him down in the description, so you guys can check that out if you haven't seen it already. But one of my favorite champions in Raid Shadow Legends. I really just love this guy, and I think he gets slept on quite a bit. Alright, that said, we are going to move on to the final champion in this video. And this was a little tough at first, because at first I was trying to think, like, you know, it's very, very hard to pick one epic that's easy to get, because it's not easy to get epic champions, especially early in the game. So what I decided to do was actually go with a champion that you are guaranteed to get by your second week in the game. And this is a champion that really nobody talks about. It's kind of funny because he's got a really, really solid kit. And we're going to be talking about Jizo, however you'd like to say it. He is a defense champion. He is in the Lizardmen faction. He is actually a reward champion. You will get, I believe, your second week playing the game. The first week you get Shaman. But Jizo to me is actually a really, really good champion that, like I said, not too many people talk about him. One of the things that drives me nuts is that everyone always talks about counterattack and how important counterattack is and how there's only so many counterattack champions. But then they only talk about Skull Crusher, they only talk about Martyr, and this guy kind of gets completely forgot. And I know why it is, because it's just a single ally that you can put this on, whereas like Skull Crusher, Martyr, they put that on the entire team. Valkyrie as well. But this guy, you get him the second week you're in the game, and he gives you a guaranteed counterattack champion that you can use. That's one of the things I love about him. But let's just get into his basic kit. So the A1 attacks one enemy 2 times. His damage is based on defense. Super easy to build, especially early in the game when you don't have all that amazing gear. It's actually very easy to stack defense on champions. Just getting the good main stat gear pieces you want from the campaign. So it's easy to build this guy's defense pretty high. Pretty simple A1 2-hitter, pretty good there. Hits relatively hard too. So his A2 is the good one here. This is on the only problem is it is on a 5-turn cooldown, but again, you're going to get a shield buff for 3 turns and a counterattack buff for 2 turns on one ally. Also going to grant him an extra turn. The value of the shield is proportional to his defense. So again, build that defense up high, throw that shield out. This is great. This actually is really, really good in arena. You can put this on your main nuker or your DPS champ to make sure they're going to stay alive. You can snowball turns with him in arena too. Really good early on in the game for arena defense. It's going to be tough if you build this guy out for people to get through him, especially when he throws out that shield and that counterattack. And like I said, it's just super valuable. You're 2 weeks into the game and you've got a guaranteed counterattack champion. And I know, like I said, it's only going to be on one ally, but so important. It's going to help your damage out, whether you're using him in dungeons. He's great in faction wars. I've thought about trying to put him into a clan boss team, but again, I just don't have the time to really invest in it at this point. Alright, so we go on to his next one, which is the A3. Attacks one enemy, 80% chance to place the provoke debuff for 2 turns, and places a 50% continuous heal on him for 2 turns. Again, the damage is based on defense, and then he does have an increased attack aura in all battles by 18%, which early in the game can be helpful because that's going to boost your damage up for all of your champions. But just in general, this guy is an awesome tank very early in the game. Easy to build him up for defense. He can be a real hassle to deal with in early arena too. You put him on your defense team, it's probably going to get you a lot more successful defenses on the arena. Great in early faction wars for Lizardmen. Actually, really good in-game faction wars for Lizardmen. And this is actually a champion, as I said, you know, it's going to be based on your account, what you want to build. This is a guy I would take to 6 stars. I don't think there's any problem at all taking him to 6 stars. I think he's got a lot of potential, even late in the game. And like I said, early on, having that counterattack is going to be awesome for you, especially if you're going through dungeons. It's great in the arena. You can put that on the counterattack on somebody early on in the game. And it just gives you a lot more options to use early on. And again, it's a champion that really not too many people talk about him that much. And like I said, he's a guaranteed epic. I know a lot of people will focus on Haikatoon, some of the other guaranteed champions like Solo Drakes that are really, really good champions, but I feel like Jizo never gets talked about enough, so I wanted to kind of bring him to light in this video and kind of give some positive thoughts on him and kind of open you guys up to using him if you hadn't thought about it already. So those are my 5 champions I feel like get overlooked. I tried to hit one from each rarity there to kind of give you guys an idea of you know, what my thoughts are on those and what I think you could use them for early in the game to hopefully help progress your account a little bit. As always, guys, if you have any questions about anything you saw in the video, excuse me, feel free to leave it down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to get to those as soon as I can. As always, I hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you again next time.